Babisan, is first, I will try to complete the API implementation first. Probably that would take around 1 or 2 weeks. Maximum probably is 2 weeks. After that, because the API side is actually very important for us to be able to define the workflow. So once we have the API, that's the time that I will discuss with you how we are going to create the workflow structure for identity and how we can also distribute these services to our service provider. So we can actually interconnect those two, but sometimes it's very confusing if we go to the workflow first without actually understanding how really the centralized identity works. So I will explain to you. Uh, this might be a little bit technical discussion, but I will try to make sure. I will try to make myself maybe not so confusing for you. Uh, so feel free to ask question along the way. Okay. So once we implement the digital ID during the Japan Summit, Babisan, it's one of the major topics. So what I'm trying to say is major companies are moving to decentralized ID now. In fact, there are several companies doing the presentation related to the digital ID. So it seems to be the trend now. It seems to be going on that direction. Uh, Even the banking, finance, they're also moving to digital identity. But the only thing is most of this company, they were able to implement, according to them, they were able to implement their decentralized ID implementation in 1 or 2 years because it's really highly technical implementation. But the reason why this is very important to choose the Hyperledger ND, because I'm not sure, Babisan, I think you can see my screen now, right? Uh, I'm not sure if you've heard about the DRP, General GD, I think GDPR, General Data Privacy Right. I'm not sure if you've heard about this, Babisan. Almost all the companies, even in US and in Europe, if you want to create a business that is recognized internationally, you have to comply with GDPR. It's something like I forgot the meaning, but something like General Data Protection Right. That means you have to have a evaluation that you are qualified to protect the client's data. Okay, so the most important thing is the Hyperledger ND is already GDPR compliant. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I find it correct. The spelling, I think GDPR. This one, General Data Protection Regulation. Most most company you have to comply. Microsoft, Apple, all the tech companies they have to comply. And the good thing is the Hyperledger already is compliant with this standard. Okay. Now, if we implement a decentralized identity, Babisan, there are two models that we can look at. One is a public and one is a private. Let me know, Babisan, if the font is too small or is it fine? Okay. So there are two modes where we can implement. One is public. When we say public, that means we run under the sovereign network. When we do the private, that means we just have our own identity, maybe within just Japan or maybe within just a certain company or group of companies, maybe group of banks. We run in the public, private, and then we control our own network. But I think in our case, because we want to provide general identity to our Wrappy users to the world, we might go for the public, right? So they can verify our identity. But anyway, we will discuss that later on once we go into the workflow. But for now, either way, the only difference in the private is, I just want to explain shortly, Bamsan, there are certain rules in when implementing the ND. So there are several rules. One is what we call the steward. I just want to give you an overview first before I go to the technical, so you can understand while I'm doing the presentation. Is it okay, Bamsan? Yes. Okay. So in the Hyperledger ND network, there are several roles. This is a kind of how much privilege you can do. One is what we call the steward. Steward is something like the one that manages the network. It is something like the administrator of the network. So for example, in the case of the public network, these are some of the stewards, Babisan. So like IBM, Cisco, NEC, these are the stewards. Okay? So just to give you like a T-Mobile. So they actually do the administration of the sovereign network. So they have special rule because, by the way, Babisa, I'm not sure if you're already aware, the sovereign network is a public permission blockchain. So it's called public because anybody can join and anybody can inquire the ledger. But if you want to have certain privilege, you need to have a permission to be able to provide an identity. That's why there's another role called the trust anchor. Okay? I just want to create this because this is very important once I explain the technical side. So the trust anchor, Babsan, this particular role, the only role privilege is if you are a trust anchor, you can issue credentials. Okay? So for example, Wrappy, we can be a trust anchor and we can issue a credential to our Wrappy users. I can also join the sovereign network without any role. I'm not a steward, I'm not a trust anchor, but the only thing I can do is only verify and check if the identity is valid or not. I cannot issue an identity. I can only query the ledger. That's why it's called public, because anybody can join the network and then query the network. But only the trust anchor can issue a credential. Okay? That's why it's called a permission blockchain, because not everyone is authorized to be a trust anchor. You have to apply to the steward before you can become a trust anchor. Okay, so this is very important. There is an application process. They will verify, they will validate you. What is the purpose why you want to become a trust anchor? What is the purpose why you want to issue a credential? You have to submit documents. You have to comply with the requirements before you can become a trust anchor. On the other hand, we can also apply to be a steward once we become big, and then we can issue trust anchor roles to our service provider. But we can discuss that later on. But for now, I was looking at, we are a trust anchor because we want to only create credentials for Wrappy users, right? Okay. Now, here's the good news, Babisan. Before I proceed, I want to insert the good news. Applying to become a trust anchor really is very, maybe not complicated, but there are so many qualifications required. But one good thing, one very important good news I would like to share to you, Babisan. Remember the Convector platform. Convector platform, I just have a meeting with the CEO of Convector, because remember, we are now an official contributor to Convector, right? If you can remember. So I already received the information ahead. So Convector, they have in the roadmap, I will just type it right. They want to combine Hyperledger Fabric plus decentralized ID together in Convector. Okay? So the Convector platform will integrate decentralized ID and Fabric in the future. Hello, Babisan? Yeah. So they want to make sure that when we develop the application, it already has the identity in mind. Okay? Another good news, so that's one good news because the reason why at least our chain code or smart contract is already future proof. Okay. Another good thing, which is very big news when I received the news, the 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 company that actually developed the convector is called the World Cebu. This is the name of the company, Babisan. Yes. World Cebu is the name of the company who created the convector. And just few days ago, they have already been accepted to be one of the steward. Okay? Now, when the time comes that we will apply to become a trust anchor, it's a lot more easy because we are already a contributor to the convector project. Okay? So we're very close to them. In fact, I've been talking to their CEO almost every day. So this is very good news for us if we proceed for the decentralized ID. So they have already been approved. Sooner they will be declared steward. They will appear already in the sovereign network. And when we apply to be trust anchor, we will apply to them, and they will help us quickly. Yes, and I think a lot will be easier. They will help us a lot because we are already a so two good news. One is the convector will be designed to work with Hyperledger ND and Fabric integration, and at the same time, the World Cebu, the company who developed the convector, is already this is already been confirmed. They have already been approved to be the steward in the sovereign network. Okay, so those are good news, Barbizan. So I think once we move forward, things will be a lot easier for us, and our smart contracts will be more future-proof to integrate the decentralized ID. Okay, so those are the good news. Now, I think you understand. Steward is responsible for managing the network. They can give you the role of a trust anchor, and on the other hand, the trust anchor is the only one who can issue an identity credential. Okay? So I think you got the idea, right, Stewart? So the reason why the Hyperledger ND is considered as public permission blockchain because even if I am not a trust anchor, even if I am not steward, I can still join the network. For example, if I am a bank, I can join the network just to verify if maybe Bobby-san has the employment certificate. I can query from the blockchain. I don't have any role. I just need to query, and that's why it's called the public because anyone can join, but only special privilege are given to trust anchor and stewards. Okay, I think you got the idea, right? So that's why it's called the public permission. This is MD. Public, on the other hand, is a private permission. While the Ethereum and Bitcoin, they're simply public blockchain, and nobody knows who they are. That's why, but I just want to share something, Babisan. During the Hyperledger in the summit, one of the guys explained that's why Fabric is very important for business blockchain. The reason why, if you are doing business, the most important criteria when doing business is you should know who is the other side of the business, right? In public blockchain, you do not know. That's why public is private because you need to know who you are dealing business with. That's why it's very good explanation. So in business, getting to know the other party in the transaction is very important. That's why it's a private permission. That's exactly the reason, according to him, that's exactly the reason why Ethereum and Bitcoin will never work for business except that it's just for currency and tokens. It's not designed for business. So okay, so that's so now I will try to proceed with the explanation, Bobby-san. So when we create an identity, everything is about wallet. Okay, when I create an identity wallet for Bobby-san, I create an identity wallet for Alex. Inside that wallet, I can store different credentials. Okay? Now, why this is very important? Everything that you need to store in the wallet contains a DID. Let me just define this. Okay? So, for example, if I have a bank account, this one will be assigned a DID. If I have an employment certificate, this one also has a DID. So in my wallet, I have multiple DID, which contains different kind of information depending on what kind of credentials I will receive from the company that I am working with. Okay, so I just want to emphasize, there's a wallet, and inside the wallet, there are multiple DID or decentralized identifier. Okay, now another thing I would like to, maybe I'll explain later on, Babi-san, but I will try to demonstrate this, how it works. So I already created some of the API because this, I'm just curious, Babi-san, because most of the company explained during the summit, they were able to develop their identity network like 1 or 2 years. But I'm putting myself in a challenge if we can develop this within 1 to 2 months. Okay, so that's my target. I hope I can. That's why we have already started with the SDK implementation, which I will demonstrate. But the reason why I explain to you the concept first, because this is very important once I demonstrate the technical side. Okay, so I will now demonstrate. So I have developed already the API that allows us to communicate with Hyperledger ND. This is not complete, but this is a very good starting point. So I will run this one. So I will now run. Okay, so I call it the Wrappy Identity Core. Okay, so it's running on port 87000. So let me demonstrate for you first. So right now, I am already running a node. Let me demonstrate that to you. Okay, so I'm running an ND pool. It's a network pool. It's running already in the past 17 hours. Okay, so this is a node, just a single node, but maybe in the future we have multiple nodes on different machines. But since this is a development environment, I'm just running a single node. Okay. Now I will connect with our API to demonstrate the concept, and then I will also show you how it looks like in the ledger. Okay. But first thing, Barisan, is I will show you first what the ledger contains. Okay. I will connect to the ledger. Okay. So right now I have two connection pool, Wrappy and the Sandbox. Okay. So I will connect to the Wrappy pool just to demonstrate to you that we are connected to the actual node, not to the other. Okay. Yeah. So you can see now we are connected to the Wrappy connection pool. This is our node. Remember I showed you earlier it's running in the Docker system. This is now. We are not connecting to the Docker node. Now, if I will try to look at, because this is a fresh node, if I will type the command wallet list, right now it's basically empty. Okay, so I'll start with the explanation from here. Okay, now first thing, Babisan, before a network can actually function, there has to be a steward. And once we go to the public network, no problem because the steward already exists, right? There's already the IBM, there's already the NAC. But since this is our development environment, which is a public, which is a private network, we don't have any steward rep yet. So what I will do, I will register create a steward for us. I already created an API to generate the steward based on their blockchain. Okay. So I will show you. So I will generate. This is actually connected to the API. Just let me just show you the settings, so you can see here. If you can see here, this is the same port number and host name where our node is running. So I just want to show you that we're actually connecting to the API. Okay. First thing is let's try to create the steward because steward is very important. Okay. Now, once we create the steward actually contains the wallet where you can actually verify and connect. Okay. So if you look at here, Babisan, I'm not sure. This is a small font, but I hope it's clear on your side. Okay. Now, if you look up here, the steward has a unique ID because this is actually a reserved ID inside the network. Okay? And this is the key. Now, I will try to demonstrate to you. Let's try to open that in the ledger and see what does the, okay? So if we type wallet list, now you can see we have one wallet, which is the steward's wallet. Now I will try to open the wallet so you can see what's inside. Okay, I'm just trying to show you what's inside because in the API side of it, everything is automatic, so you cannot directly see what is the data inside. That's why I'm trying to show you what's inside the ledger. Okay, so I'll try to open this wallet, and the key is actually the password. Okay, if you will notice, the wallet now has been opened. Now, remember I explained earlier, Bobby said, inside the wallet, there are a lot of DID, right? Decentralized identifier. So let's try to take a look at that inside. What are the DID? So you can see here, there's a DID, right? This is inside the steward wallet. We can verify that, Bobby-san, by querying the ledger. Okay, so let me try to query the ledger just to make sure that this is actually the steward. Can you see this one, Babasan? If you look at here, the DID role is a steward. I can verify from the blockchain that yes, this particular ID belongs to a steward here. Okay? So theoretically, once we go into production, we don't really have to think about this one because there's already a steward. But I'm just trying to demonstrate to you if we run in the private network, we can create a steward wallet that can manage the network. So either we go for private or we go for public, we're actually ready. And we can manage how to create a steward, and we can also manage if we go to the public permission. Okay? So let me just close this wallet. Okay? I'm closing the wallet. Now it's closed. Okay? Now, this is the most important thing. The steward registration is just an introduction because we need one to start. Okay? So let me just clear the screen. So this is the most important demonstration, Babisan. I will try to create two wallets. Let me demonstrate. One wallet is called the Alex. The wallet requires only two things. One of the first thing is the ID, or you can specify any ID, or you can ask the system to generate the ID for you. The second one is the key. So when you create a wallet, make sure you know the password so that you only are the one who can open the wallet. Okay? So you need the ID and the key. So I will try to register two things, Bambi-san. One is Alex, and then I will also register another one, which is a Wrappy. And I will explain to you why I create two wallets. Okay? So let's create first the basic wallet. First wallet is Alex. Okay? And this is my DID. Once you create a wallet, you will be assigned a DID. Okay? I want to just emphasize, Babi-san, let me quickly explain. There are two types of DID. One is called a very name, and the other called is a pseudo. Okay, I just want to emphasize, when we say a very name, that means that's the DID assigned to you as your wallet ID. Okay, the pseudonym, that's the ID that used, for example, remember, if you have new credentials, right? There are multiple credentials inside your wallet. They will also have DID, but they are called the pseudonym DID. Okay. I'm not sure, Babisan, if you got confused. The very name is just to identify the wallet. The pseudonym is just to identify the DID inside your wallet. Okay. So every time we create the wallet, we got the very name. This one. This is the very name DID. It's still a DID, but it's called the very name. Okay. Now, let me create another wallet first. So, what I'm trying to do, Babi-san, is I create two wallets. Alex is the user wallet, and Wrappy is I want to have a trust anchor role. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. So first, I create a user wallet. And the second one is I want to create a trust anchor role, because the trust anchor is the one who can issue the credentials, right? Yeah. So user will just have a wallet in his mobile phone, and he can receive credentials from company like Coming from the bank is your bank account. Coming from your company is your employment certificate. So I'll create now. I already created the Alex, and I'll also create the Rappius. Okay, so I'll execute this one. Okay, so it's also successful. And every time I register a wallet, I always assign a DID. That's why we have a DID here. The ver key, Babisan, is used internally. It's used for verification key. That's why the Hyperledger engine is very technical because everything is encrypted. You have the verification key to make sure that it's only you who authorized can actually open your wallet, something like that, or credentials. Okay? Okay. Now I will try to demonstrate what's inside the ledger. So I will attach to the CLI. Okay, so right now I already have 3 wallets in our network. One is the Steward, and I have 2 wallets, Alex and Rappius. But this time, let me try to demonstrate, Babisan, why assigning a trust anchor is very important. So I will try to connect to the network. Okay. Sorry, Babisan, this might take a little more time. I hope we still have time because I want to do a because I want to do a live demonstration. So very interesting topic. Okay, so let me try to open the Rappius wallet. Okay, now it's already open. I will try to look at what's inside my wallet. Okay, so remember I have the very name. I don't have a pseudo name yet. I have the very name. This one. This is my DID. But here's the thing. What if I want to check the ledger? What is your role? Okay, so let me check in the ledger. I specify the DID of Rappius. Okay. Now, one thing you will notice is once I verify the very name, it will give me, you say that name not found. The reason why, because this is only a wallet. I'm just creating the wallet. I don't have any role. I cannot issue credentials. I don't have any roles. Anybody in the network sovereign can create their own wallet, but that's it. It's just a wallet. Okay? That's why it cannot be found. But here's the thing. What if we will promote the Rappius to be a trust anchor? Okay, so let's try to do that in the API. I just want to show you, Babisan, that we have already so many code here. Okay, like this one. So it's a very long source code already. So like this is our Wrappy identity core source code already. So it's we have started developing the basic core API. Okay, so here we want to grant this one. The role anchor method is we want to make Rappius as a trust anchor. Okay, so let's start to call this API. Okay, so remember this particular API, it requires 2 things. Please tell me what is the DID of the wallet you want to make a trust anchor. Okay, so what I will do, remember we opened earlier, let me just show. Remember, we have the DID of the Rappius, right? This one, DID and the ver key. I want to promote this particular wallet to be a trust anchor. So I will copy this one. First, the DID, which is 6F, and I will paste it here. And I will also copy the ver key. Ver key is actually a verification key. So this is very important because every request is encrypted and needs to be verified by the ver key. Okay, that's why. Okay, okay. So I will execute our API, the Wrappy Identity Core, to make this particular wallet. We can actually make anybody as a trust anchor. Maybe sooner we become a steward. We can make the service provider as a trust anchor. So we can have this kind of functionality. Okay. So see, I will execute this one. As you can see, the success, right? Okay, now let's try to go back here and try to execute again the same method that actually shows the name not found earlier, right? Now you can see that there is now a role of endorser. Endorser means this is the role assigned for a trust anchor. It means this particular wallet can now issue credentials. Yeah, so you can see the same command. Earlier, it shows name not found, meaning the very name has not been found yet. But once we promoted the wallet to become a trust anchor, now it has given a role, which we can validate from the system. Okay, so this is the most important starting point. Now, the same DID, nothing changed, but inside the wallet, let me just close this one. Okay, I think you got the idea already, Babisan, right? For the trust anchor. Let me just close this wallet. And then I'll open the Alex wallet. Okay. Now I want to make sure what's inside my wallet. Later on, once we created the mobile app, by the way, Babisan, after we develop the API, define the workflow, I will develop the prototype mobile app where user can see his credentials and he can see also the kind of maybe company is requesting to get his a profile and he can accept. I will demonstrate that once we have the prototype up. That's very interesting part soon. Okay. Okay. So now we also have the DID. If you notice, the DID is a N3Q. It's the same DID that we registered earlier. So if you notice, it starts with N3 and Q. If we go back to the Alex wallet, it's also the same here, N3Q. And yeah, so the same thing. Okay. Now, now we have the wallet, Babisan. The next thing that I will be implementing is now the credentials. Okay, so I will show you the this one. These are the pending things. Okay, that will be the next step. I will explain to you what is the schema and credential definition and how to issue a credential, how to negotiate a proof, and how to send a secure message. By the way, secure message, Babisan, is not a chat system. So for example, if I have an identity and a company would like to request your identity, because remember, not anyone can actually view your profile. You have to request the person that you want to view his resume. So it sends a secure digital message to the wallet and it will notify the user and then will approve or not. So what I'm trying to show, Babisan, is, what I'm trying to explain is, if the bank, let's say, I want to get your employment certificate, he cannot just simply access my personal profile. I need to do approval. Okay? That's why this can be done through a secure message. Okay? So, but before that, Bobby said, I have not implemented the API, but let me explain to you what is the schema and credential definition, okay? Because I think this is important once we define the workflow for Wrappy. So the way it works, Bobby said, is we have a schema. The schema is something like this. Let me show you. Okay. So for example, I call this one as bank account. So I have bank name, date open, balance, or maybe currency, and this is balance. For example, just an example. Okay. So the trust anchor, we Wrappy will actually create this sooner. That's why once we discuss the workflow, we will define the schema, what information we store in the ledger. For example, this is a bank account. There is also what we call the, this is a, let's say we call this a credential schema. Okay, so for example, I'll create another one. An example is employment certificate. So we have the company, name of the employee, we have the company, we have the salary, maybe date from and date to. Okay, so this is an employment certificate example. The other one is bank account. So this is what we call the schema. It is us, Wrappy. The Wrappy platform will define the schema. And later on, there is also what we call a credential definition. Okay? So what is credential definition? For example, maybe at a later time, it depends whether we are a trust anchor. If we want to offer the services, for example, Babisan, to our service provider. So for example, we have a client called Wrappy Bank, for example. And we also have Zunder, which is the name of the company, for example. And we also have maybe Rapius Bank. Maybe not Rapius. Maybe just Metro Bank. Just this one first. Okay? So for example, in the future, Babisan, once we have the service provider, they will try to use our schema. So they can issue a credential. Let's say this bank, they cannot issue a credential unless they use our schema. So for example, we use the schema, they will create like Wrappy. For example, we will use the schema, right? Bank account. So when Metro Bank issues a bank statement, they will use the schema and then they will create what we call a credential definition, which is also an XML. Okay, so maybe something like this. This is not the actual Babisan, but this is just a pseudo representation. So schema and then name. Let me just remove some so it's not confusing. Maybe just this one. Okay? So, the most important thing, Babsan, is the service providers, they cannot issue their own schema. They can only use whatever we have. For example, bank account, which has already the attributes like the date open, currency, and the balance. And they have to use it and then declare their own ID and save to the ledger. So, for example, we call it a Metro Bank at bank account, right? Bank account is the name of the schema. Remember this one on top? And Wrappy, sorry, this is Wrappy Bank. And Metro Bank will also, sorry, create their own schema definition, but they call it a Metro Bank. Okay? So when they issue a bank statement to a user wallet, they will use this particular ID, which is referencing the bank account schema. This one. I'm not sure if sorry, Wabsana, maybe I'm a little bit confusing, but I hope you got the idea. So there's a schema created by Wrappy, and service provider will just use the schema and assign their own unique ID. Were you able to get the idea? Or yeah, okay. So when they issue a bank account credentials, it goes to the user's wallet will have ID like this. So you know it's coming from the Metro Bank. And it also contains the DID of Metro Bank here, something like that. Okay? So you know who issued the bank statement, and you know who actually issued the employment certificate from your wallet. Once you have the user wallet, you can see all the credentials inside. You know where it is coming from and what kind of schema they are using, like this. So in the future, we will define what are the different schema that we will implement. Maybe let's start with profile. Maybe profile, we will create a profile with just the basic name, address, maybe something like that. Phone, birthday. Okay? Something like that. Okay, now here's the most important thing, Babi-san. So, if I am the user, I specify this name, but Wrappy will not issue, this will not appear in, remember when they create a Wrappy account, they will specify the name, address, mobile, birth date, and any personal information, right? So they will include that. But this is where KYC comes in. So when they create their account, open their mobile wallet, nothing will show. Even if you specify the name, address, mobile, it's an empty wallet. So what they will do is through email, we will perform the KYC either through the phone. We ask them to submit documents to prove your address, your mobile, and birthday. Once we have validated the name, address, and mobile, that's the time that we will issue the schema definition to them, and it will appear on the wallet. That means once it appears on their wallet in their mobile phone, we already performed the KYC for them. Okay? So that's the workflow. That's where the KYC comes in. Now, we can actually break it down. Maybe during sign up, they can just specify the name. This will automatically. So there are certain schema that does not require KYC. Maybe start with the name. Whatever name they register, it will appear right away. But once we create a schema for address, they need to send maybe proof of billing. and then it will appear to their wallet. It depends on how we want to define the schema. But the simplest method is empty wallet, and then we perform the KYC, and then automatically this will appear inside the wallet. Maybe we discuss that later on, but or maybe you can take that question shortly. Okay. So, what kind of profile needs KYC? Maybe here. Another thing, Babisan, is here's another thing. If we don't want the service provider to handle the KYC, we can actually create everything here under the Wrappy. So instead of having the credential definition created by another party, even us will handle the bank, so name, date, open. They just need to submit a document or something like that. And then we will be the one to verify. It depends on what kind of workflow we want to do. Okay? So it's a flexible, whether you want the service provider to handle the KYC or we can handle the KYC for them. But every credential definition that goes to the user wallet, it requires a KYC approval before it will appear, before we accept and send to the wallet. So that's the workflow. Okay? So this is the next step. Right now, I have not implemented this one. This will be the next step. I will go back to the list. This will be the next step. Schema and credential definition, and then issuance of schema. Negotiate, approve. This is the time when, for example, if I want to apply for a bank account and the bank would request for proof of employment. So this is the proof, negotiate, approve. These are different steps. This will be the next step that I will implement in the API. Once we have completed these particular steps, that's the time, Babisan, that we will try to discuss the workflow, and now we will implement the Wrappy decentralized ID in full force. Okay? So this will be the, the sequence of steps. I will try my best. I know this is really complicated, very highly technical, but I will try my best, Babisan, that I can implement this within the 2 weeks' time. I know it's very challenging, but I'm pushing myself very hard. I'm trying to make this complete in within 2 months. So within 2 months, hopefully we can. Within 2 months from now, hopefully we can have a mobile ID wallet. Yeah, I will try my best. So yeah, user can now request, sign up, and then we perform the KYC, and then after approval of the KYC, it goes to the mobile wallet and will show his credentials on the mobile phone. And this is very important because once we go for the Wrappy Guild job, he can use this proof, credential proof to apply for the job. And whoever is hiring or posting for the job, he can validate whether this particular is okay or not. He can validate also from the ledger. Okay, he said, okay, this really has the correct address of the user. He can validate and he can accept the applicant by verifying his credentials, digital credentials. So we can now interconnect soon, interconnecting to the Wrappy Guild function, to the IID, because I think this is very important. Like, remember in the Wrappy Guild, we have the applicant applying, right? And then the owner will accept to apply. But what is the basis for you to accept the applicant is the Wrappy digital ID and the KYC verification. So we can now interconnect it. So this becomes more interesting because once we have developed the identity system, we can now interconnect with the Wrappy Guild and everything. And we can also connect the Wrappy identity also to the service provider. Now, I think we have an ecosystem, full ecosystem of identity and services for the Wrappy services and also for the Wrappy Guild. So I think in the next few months, things are getting very interesting. Yes, very essential because like yeah, I let's say I post I'm looking for a yaya, but there are applicants, but I don't know how where who should I choose. I don't have any proof, right? I don't know the credential of this user. That is where the Rappi ID comes in. On the other hand, for service provider, the same. So if, for example, they can use this identity to verify who is this user applying to be maybe they want to apply for a store or for any other usage for identity. We can extend the same functionality to the service providers as well. So because I got interested with the service provider concept, Babisan, because a lot of company they want to offer blockchain services without having to worry about how to set up the blockchain. That is Rappi provide for them. So according to the Hyperledger Summit, you worry about your business, not the blockchain problem. Let the Rappi handle. Very very good word. You worry about business, not the blockchain problem. Let Rappi platform handle the blockchain problem. You just focus on what your business can do. Yeah. Actually, a lot of companies, Bamisan, are actually very much interested now because even if I'm not sure if Tammy Ong mentioned in the Hyperledger Summit, even the rice from the farmer to the workflow to the distribution going to the market, it's now in the blockchain. It's demonstrated in the Hyperledger Summit. Even I already saw a lot of projects. Even the fishing, Bamisan, like the fisherman, they catch the fish, transport to the market, and then maybe export worldwide. It's now also in the blockchain, even rice and fishes. So, but the thing is, they're interested in the blockchain, but they didn't want to spend the problem of the blockchain. They just want to focus on the business. That's where Rappi comes in. We worry about your blockchain problem. You focus on your business. So that's why it's very interesting. That's why once we have the identity, we have the fabric. I think we have now the not before we have an application, right? We have the restaurant application. But once we have the identity completed, I don't want to call it even a platform or application. I want to call it an ecosystem, an interconnected platform already. So this is very interesting in the next few months. Yeah. So, and the good thing is because we design our architecture to be service oriented, we actually can extend to others who don't want to worry about blockchain, but they just want to focus on services. We have the platform already or the ecosystem we can provide to them. So this is very interesting. In the next few months, especially once we completed the decentralized ID, I will try to cross my finger, Rabisan. I'm trying to complete within 2 months' time. We should have a Wrappy identity platform. It's a very I don't know how you want to call that. It's a I think maybe I dream too much because other company made it in 1 year or two, but I'm trying to complete it in 1 or 2 months from now. Maybe I'm too ambitious, but I still think positive. It's a very challenging. Yes, 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 very interesting. And not only that, Pawisan, we're now getting aligned with some good news like Convector becoming a steward. I think uh, all the stars are aligned for us. And now we have officially been acknowledged to be a contributor, which makes us very close to them. Now we have full access to. So I don't know if this is happening by chance or this is destiny, I don't know. I'm in good position, especially that. But yeah, hopefully, Babisan, we can work the full ecosystem. I think this will be a very good legacy. Any questions so far, Babisan? Sorry, maybe too technical to explain, but I hope you get the idea. Yeah. Okay, but sorry, I think I overdue again the time. I'm supposed 20, 30 minutes. It's already past 1 hour. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Babisan, and I will always give you an update from time to time. But we are progressing now. As we have the Wrappy identity core already in progress, as you can see on screen. So next step will be defining the schema and credentials, and I think we're good to go. Thank you very much for your time, Babisan, and uh, sorry about again for overdoing always the time. Thank you. Thank you very much, Baban. Bye bye, Babisan.